More than 1 million Americans are living in RVs, valves, or cars. And that number especially surged at Las Vegas, which was once a symbol of luxury and opportunity dreams. Is being in a roof becoming obsolete? If not, then why does Vegas's middle class have to pack their lives in old cars? Vegas used to be a place where just by working hard, anyone could dream of a small house with a green lawn and a warm dinner. But now, that seems to be fading. As rents soar to record levels, food and fuel prices rise week by week. More and more Americans, even middle class, are being pushed out of their dream of stability. In Vegas, they started moving into cars as a new survival plan. A four-wheel dwelling replaced the permanent home. A parking lot becomes an overnight shelter. And the American dream, which is built on the concept of house is the foundation of happiness, is gradually cracking with each wheel rolling away. Is this not just a housing crisis, but a new portrait of America, where effort is no longer enough to retain what seems most basic, a place to call home? In today's video, we'll explore why the middle class in Las Vegas is moving into the car to live, and how that change is quietly destroying the American dream right at its heart. Its most brilliant. The middle class in Vegas is looking for a new survival plan by leaving their permanent home to live in the car. It sounds like the nomadic free style on Instagram, but the reality is much harsher. This is not a free lover's choice, but a kind of forced freedom, or frankly, exile life, when you no longer have enough money to pay the rent. Across Nevada, from Walmart parking lots to the desert beyond Henderson, hundreds of aging RVs have turned into temporary homes for people who have had stable jobs, dined in restaurants, and vacationed in California. They are not lazy or giving up, but victims of an increasingly harsh reality: skyrocketing rent prices, precarious jobs, and insufficient wages to keep up with the cost of living. The average income of a household in Las Vegas is currently about $73,000 USD a year. Seems to be enough to live comfortably. But Vegas is a unique economy. It relies on the service, travel, and casino industries, where tips make up the majority of income, and jobs can disappear after just one slowing travel season. When the travel crisis hit, a series of people lost their jobs, and stable standard of living was just a memory. Within a decade, Vegas's real middle-class income fell by more than $10,000, while rents increased by more than 40%. Families who were once confident with suburban roofs now have to pack their things and move into their cars to live. Retirement savings are eroded. Temporary work and insurance, taxes, electricity and water costs are all escalating. The class that used to be the backbone of the city, hotel staff, technicians, teachers, even retirees, now become homeless four-wheeled. A 59-year-old woman shared, "If we look at it on the outside, perhaps no one knows that we have lost our roof. I worked my whole life to keep it, but now I sleep in my old car." So desperate. Researchers call this phenomenon the fall from the middle class. Richard Reeves, economist at the Brookings Institution, commented, "A lot of people have been pushed into the low-income group. Basically, they have been excluded from the middle class." In Las Vegas, that painting is more ironic. On paper, many people are still classified as middle class because their income level is still within the statistical stable threshold. But the reality is different. That number is not enough to keep pace with the escalation of rent, cost of living, and service inflation. The city that once boasted of being a place where you could change your life even without a college degree has now become a place where just a few $100s increase in electricity bills can cause a family to lose their roof. A bitter paradox of Vegas, which once elevated people to the middle class, now pushes them to the curb with a twist of the economy. Fixed RV parks are full, and those who arrive late must park on the street where there is no water, no electricity, and risks from weather and crime. Many people try to keep hope that this is just a temporary phase. But according to community support organizations, the number of people living in the car is still increasing month by month, and temporary is gradually becoming permanent. It is ironic, when in a place that once helped millions of people get their hands on the middle class, to now see that same class fall into the abyss. The wheels that once rolled on the highway with the dream of freedom now spin in despair. How many more houses on wheels need to appear for America to admit this is a real crisis? And if house is just a temporary concept, who else would come to Vegas to dream about the American dream? In a country that once boasted a paradise of opportunity, is ironic as thousands of Americans now have to choose to live in aging RVs to survive. They are not evaders of responsibility, nor do they dream of freedom. They are middle class, people who once believed that working hard would ensure a home, a future. But in today's economy, they realize that free has turned into a forced choice. Although each person's cause is different, the phenomenon of more and more middle-class families having to live in cars is not just a personal tragedy, which is a sign of a systemic disease. From skyrocketing house prices, shortages of affordable housing, to weak support services and a deepening gap between rich and poor, all weave into a spiral that gradually suffocates workers. And no, this is not the fault of any particular party or policy. This is a consequence that accumulates over generations as the cost of living increases many times faster than income, and American dream gradually becomes a luxury item. According to the latest statistics, more than 63% of American workers cannot turn $500 in an emergency, and most do not have more than $1,000 in their savings account. Those numbers not only show financial uncertainty, but also reflect a society reaching its tolerance limit. A $20 bill that used to be enough for a family dinner or a full tank of gas now doesn't even fill up half a tank for an RV. Last house of thousands of people. In Las Vegas, that image is more visible than ever. Uber drivers, hotel staff, casino security, work full-time, still have to live paycheck to paycheck. A bottle of water in Vegas costs the same as a hearty meal for the whole family in Phoenix. A night of renting a room in the heart of the Strip now costs as much as a month's rent in rural Kansas. With an average rent of over $1,300 per month, many people have no choice but to move into a car where $20 a day becomes the boundary between survival and collapse. In the $20 economic scene, Walmart, Dollar Tree, and McDonald's have become energy reserve banks for the working class. Every cheap can of soft drink, every box of instant noodles is a survival decision. But life in the car is no easier. They live on generators, solar cells, or old batteries that only charge their phones and light a dim light bulb. Gasoline prices change day by day, making traveling between legal parking lots expensive and exhausting. Campgrounds that used to cost about $500 a month in 2019 have now exceeded $900, not to mention escalating insurance, repair, and vehicle maintenance costs. Just one small problem: wheel brake shaft, motor failure, and the whole roof collapses. A car that cannot run also means losing its only place of residence. And behind that fragile metal door, there are sleepless nights, a worry every morning. Do I still have enough money to refuel and have breakfast today? Many people have worked in casinos, hotels, or restaurants where the lights still shine every night. They once contributed to the creation of prosperous Las Vegas, but are now left on the edge of in the darkness of the same light they once helped light. Perhaps there is nothing more painful than seeing people who spent half their lives building this city, now sleeping in cars in the desert, as if they had made a mistake. Every morning, when they wake up, cheap meals and running out gas tanks become symbols of a lost economy. An economy where survival gradually replaces prosperity, and free are now just a possibility to hold out until tomorrow. Is it true that in an America that once boasted of opportunity, freedom today has been reduced to just the right to exist, not the right to live? On Tropicana Avenue, amidst the strip's glowing signs and vibrant music, another reality is taking place, where hundreds of people no longer live off their salaries, but live to the beat of the algorithm. In Las Vegas, many people who left their stable jobs to join the gig economy believed they were buying freedom. But by 2025, that dream of taking control of life has become a loop of exhaustion and debt. After the pandemic, Uber, DoorDash, Instacart were once considered exits. Free to choose working hours, free to drive, free to make money. But behind that slogan is a truth that few people want to say. Drivers have to pay all their own costs, from gasoline, insurance, maintenance to vehicle depreciation. An Uber driver in Vegas shared, "Guests paid $60, I received $16. Where does the rest go? For platform, for service fee, and for gasoline." As the meter increased, they thought they were moving forward, but were actually just running around in a maze with no way out. For many people, the car is not only a work vehicle, it is also an overnight shelter. Some turn an old SUV or minivan into a makeshift home to save rent, but the cost is not small. Escalating gas costs, frequent vehicle failures, and repair debts have pushed them into another loop. Working harder to pay off debt, but debt has not decreased. Every engine explosion brings with it a silent question. This time, I'm driving to make a living, or am I running away from my own life? Freedom, which was promised as the reward of independent labor, now becomes a burden. You can't take a break because taking a break means not getting paid. You can't get sick because being sick means having no place to live. An elderly DoorDash driver said, "In the past I worked 8 hours and went home. Now I work 12 hours to have a place to park to sleep." The so-called American hustle, this constant work spirit to rise, has been bent into a machine that drains human strength, making hard work now sound like a punishment. According to some Pew Research studies, the average gig worker driver has less than 9 hours left after deducting actual expenses, lower than Nevada's minimum wage. But what keeps them going is the illusion of free, which the system has cleverly turned into bait. They no longer make a specific boss, but make the algorithm what determines who gets single, who gets left behind, and who gets underestimated. When free becomes a series of days that do not dare to stop, people lose both health and trust. They ran between two stops, the gas station and the parking lot, earning every penny to survive the day. All boundaries between working and living are blurred. And the heartbreaking paradox is that people who once believed they were living more freely are stuck deeper in a system with no outlet. Perhaps in an era where every dream has to pay for gas, the concept of working for itself has lost its meaning. When you have no time to stop, rest, or think, how much freedom is left? If freedom only exists in recruitment advertising, then what is real in this society? And is it true that every car sleeping tonight at Walmart is living proof of that question? A recent ruling by the US Supreme Court has caused a stir. Public camping can be considered an illegal act that can be detained. That sentence is dry on legal documents, but when applied to real life, it has a different meaning. In some places, not having a home has become a sin. In Las Vegas, police have the right to ask the person living in the vehicle to leave the area with just a few hours' notice. Otherwise, they could be fined or confiscated the only car property they still have. Many people said that they were forced to leave the parking lot in the middle of the night, even though they had nowhere else to go. These regulations are called by very reasonable sounding names: preserves urban aesthetic, maintains social order. But for those who no longer have a home, it is like a verdict. When a country begins to consider the existence of the poor as a nuisance that needs cleaning, the line between order and insensitivity begins to blur. Behind every RV pulled away is a life knocked out of society. Behind every removed tent roof is a person who used to have a house, a job, a family, is now pushed to the curb because he doesn't have enough money to continue legally. In many cities, the police are tasked with keeping the streets clean. But it's ironic that what's considered trash are citizens who have paid taxes, served in the military, and worked for the same projects that they are now not allowed to rest in the shadows. Freedom, value once engraved on the US Constitution, now confronts head-on with the concept of public order. When a person is arrested just because they sleep in the car, it is no longer about managing, but about criminalizing life. When the law used to protect security turns into a tool of exclusion, fairness strays. A Nevada nonprofit calls this phenomenon the vicious cycle of controlled poverty. Poor people are chased away for being homeless, fined for not having a legal place to live, and then poorer for having to pay a fine or lose your means. They cannot escape because the system itself holds the key. Is America using the law to punish the very people the system has abandoned? And if simply existing also becomes illegal, then what is the real line between humanity and insensitivity? The city used to be a symbol of betting on chance, where everyone believed that with just one dose, they could change their lives. But today, many Vegas people no longer bet with money, but with their own lives. Under the huge multi-million-dollar billboards are worn-out RVs lining the side of the road like the mobile cemeteries of the American dream. Every night, the Strip consumes enough electricity to light up 10,000 apartments, while just a few blocks away, thousands of people don't have enough money to charge the car they live in. That contrast was so painful that it was surreal. On one side was the city of light and luxury. On the other side was darkness and the sound of generators roaring. People who served at Bellagio or Caesar's Palace, floor cleaners, receptionists, doormen, are now sleeping in the same parking lots behind where they used to work. They used to greet tourists with smiles. Now they have to hide behind car curtains for fear of being chased away. A 54-year-old man who used to work as a security guard in a casino said, "I used to look after the million-dollar cars of VIP customers. Now I just hope my car doesn't get pulled away at night." The biggest paradox lies in the fact that the world's best entertainment city is where workers have to choose between filling up and having dinner. A bottle of water costs $8, a buffet ticket costs $60, while for that amount, a person living in an RV can hold out for a whole week. In Vegas, the so-called chance no longer comes from the casino, but from finding a parking spot that the police haven't had time to patrol. Amidst the bright light of City of Dreams, the American dream is fading, not with explosions, but with silence. A cold silence crept between the parking lots, where those who once believed in miracles now had to count every remaining penny. Vegas, city once represented aspiration and freedom, now reflects the tragedy of modern America. The brighter the light, the darker the darkness. How can a city be filled with light but abandon the people who created it in the dark? And when the music on Vegas Boulevard stops, will anyone hear the moaning engines of RVs, the last notes of a dying dream? On the road stretching across the Nevada desert, hundreds of aging RVs still roll every day, not to travel, but to find a place to survive the night. The image of the wheels slowly leaving the city in blazing red sunsets is reminiscent of a time when the car was once a symbol of freedom, exploration, and American aspirations. But now, those wheels have a different meaning: freedom to drift, discovery to survive. Sociology experts warn that the number of homeless people living in vehicles will continue to increase in the coming years before they can stabilize. House prices still far exceed income, while affordable rent programs are cut or dismantled in many states. According to estimates, hundreds of thousands of Americans are living on makeshift with wheels, and this number could double if housing inflation does not cool down. Among those rickety RVs is an entire generation that created modern America. They are former workers, engineers, teachers, veterans, who used to believe that if they worked hard, they would always have a roof over their head to return to. Now, they root temporarily on wheels, erect curtains with old blankets, and live on cheap solar lights. A 72-year-old veteran said, "I used to drive trucks for the government. Now I live in my own trunk." It is not just a personal tragedy, but a mirror of the nation's rift. People who used to build infrastructure, operate factories, and maintain security now have to sleep in the parking lot where people left their broken cars behind. Those old wheels aren't just rolling, they're carrying disintegrating faith. Faith in a country that promises that effort will always pay off. If the generation that built this country had to sleep in the car, American dream would probably have left the path it once took, not because of lack of hope, but because of loss of engine to continue. The word dream now no longer has the meaning of desire, but has the echo of regret. The American dream, once a symbol of rise, now rolls slowly across desert routes, where freedom and despair become one. Are we witnessing the end of a dream or its painful rebirth? And if America cannot protect the people who built it, on what foundation will this nation's future be based? Experts predict that the number of homeless people living in vehicles will continue to increase sharply before showing signs of stabilization. House prices remain high beyond income, while low-cost rental policies have been dismantled piecemeal. One analyst calls this humanitarian crisis hidden behind economic cover. Because behind the numbers and charts are real people, citizens who once contributed to the country, now marginalized. Among those rickety RVs was a whole generation that had built America's foundations. They used to drive trucks, build factories, serve the military, or work in hotels where they now only dare to park outside. A 72-year-old veteran said, "I used to drive a cargo truck for the government. Now, I live in my own trunk." Such stories are no longer rare. When wages don't keep up with costs, former taxpayers and community service now have to live on cars that are too old. They no longer dream of buying a house, just hope the car doesn't break down, doesn't get pulled away, and has enough gas to leave the place with the sign "No overnight parking." As compassion dries up, those wheels don't just roll, they carry decaying faith. A 68-year-old woman whispered, "In the past, I believed that just by working hard, everything would be fine. Now I just hope not to get sick." That harsh truth is not just about a failed generation, but about a country that is losing its promise. If the people who built Las Vegas, who lit up casinos, who kept this country steady through war and crisis now have to sleep in cars, then American dream has probably turned into a mobile memory that only exists in the sound of old engines and dim lights coming from inside the trunk. Are we witnessing the end of a dream or its painful rebirth? And if America cannot protect the people who built it, on what foundation will the future be based? As night fell over Las Vegas, the light from the signs remained as bright as if nothing had ever changed. But among those billion-dollar LED lights are hundreds of people sleeping in cold RVs, the mobile homes of the generation that once believed America never abandoned them. The American dream is not completely collapsed, but it is breathing weakly, beat by beat, on worn wheels and roads without destination. A country that once built from aspirations and beliefs now faces its own hardest question. If the people who built America had to sleep in the car, we could still call this the land of opportunity again. And if the American dream now only exists in old RVs, who will dare to restart it again? If you believe it's time for the world to see and understand those people, like, share, and leave your thoughts under the comments section. Every share is not just a video spread, but a reminder that compassion still exists in this society. This video was made with the purpose of analyzing, discovering, reflect society, not to attack, blame, or hold accountable any individual, organization, or government. All data, evidence and citations are compiled from public and reliable sources at the time of production. Some images, narratives, or characters are reproduced for the purpose of illustrating the setting without being absolutely authentic. The video's message is about understanding, compassion, and public awareness of the social transformations affecting the middle class and working people in America.